Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios and brought to you by our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson's The Missing, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. We've got a really special treat here on the Mike Wagner Show. We've had two fine people who have been on the show, heading up a coalition. We also have a gentleman who is basically double in agriculture, horticulture, having a plant farm, and doing general business consulting, general resourcing in startups. And of course, he's got a brand new company he's going to talk about. And we also have two of our previous guests on from the Native American Entertainment Coalition. They agree to join on the this venture as well, too, called Ellumeniptical. So try saying that 10 times fast, folks. And once you get it right, it's going to be the big major thing. And what's it about? We're going to find out in just 1 minute. It's basically a new company as a human think tank that brings scientists and engineers worldwide, creating a method to construct renewable generators and more new energy. And the big thing, live, ladies and gentlemen, from the Plus Studio somewhere in the United States, we have with us tonight on the Mike Wagner Show, we have Raven Diamond from the Native American Entertainment Coalition, Joseph Thomas Bailey, the CEO and founder of the same company. And also we have Eric Fortune of Ellumeniptical. So we all come together here. And guys, just want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thanks for joining us today.
Awesome, Mike.
Thanks for having us, but no good night.
I think that's later on as well, too. So we're not doing it as of yet. So don't worry about that. So
first of all, I wanted to say thank you again for bringing us on your show. These two, although they don't broadcast it, they actually end up, for some reason, they're kind of protective of me, I guess, in a weird way. So when we were figuring out where's the best place to do this, we wanted it to be all grassroots. We didn't want it to be big money and all that jazz. And they were like, well, the guy we need to talk to is Mike. And coming from them, I'm like, all right, let's go meet him. Let's go do it. So.
Okay, well, that's great as well, too. So let's get up the speed right here with Ellumeniptical. First of all, we have Raymond Diamond as well, too. She's part of the Native American Entertainment Coalition, actress, model, singer, songwriter, and just about everything under the sun. And we just got news that she became a new mom. Congratulations, by the way. And
thank you.
Talk about that. And of course, we have Joseph Thomas Bailey, the founder and CEO of Native American Entertainment Coalition, giving us an update. He's been giving some updates on his ventures as well, too, and get involved in Ellumeniptical. And Eric, you also starting up the company. It's a human think tank that brings scientists and engineers worldwide, creating a method to construct renewable generator and also create a network of scientists. And before getting to all that, first of all, Raven and Joseph, give us an update on what's been happening with you guys, especially with the Native American Entertainment Coalition.
Well, Raven, tell them about what's been going on with you since you've been on. I'll tell them about NAEC.
Okay. So basically, the last time I was on, I was doing, a lot of music, a lot of acting. I did go to the 2019 Native American Music Awards. I did place top 6. Sadly, I didn't take it home, but I got very close. I have also ventured out into books, and they're doing pretty well. I've got 2 series that got picked up, Full Moon King and God of Gears on Mithril. They just finished their season 1s. They're about to go into season 2. I think they're both in 50 or 60 countries. And they're not doing too bad. And then of course,
They're doing great.
When she forgets to state that when she went to the Native American Music Awards, she looked like the very young version of Cher. Everybody was crowding around her because she had that sunburst dress that I got a hold of for her. From a person who makes dresses, a wardrobe designer, and everybody was on her. They was like, "Who is this?" Everybody was like going towards her, and everybody was
enjoying the time there. It was definitely an awesome once in a lifetime experience.
No, we're going to try to repeat that, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I got to meet a lot of great artists there. A couple of them do want to work with me on some music. It's been crazy in both the other artist's life and my life. As briefly stated, I did have a baby. She is now 21 months. She is a handful. But she is the light of my life, so that was pretty interesting. Definitely new experience there. So I did take a quick break from modeling and acting and all of that to heal and to make sure that she was okay, because I also had her during COVID. So that was pretty scary. Her father wasn't allowed to be at a lot of the appointments because of COVID restrictions. And for a little while, we didn't even know if he was going to be allowed at the birth because the restrictions were so tight.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, a bundle of joy right there, and certainly worth as well too. And of course, Joseph, you've been with the Native American Entertainment Coalition. Of course, that's been around for quite some time. And give us an update to what's been happening and some of the things you're doing.
Well, NAEC was just before COVID when you had interviewed me initially. It was right before the pandemic, and we had projects and stuff. We were already filming projects that were going to happen. We were going to sign contract, do cultural consulting, and then guess what happened? COVID and everything. It killed everything. So now we're basically I've had to basically do like a shakedown, reconstruct, and start going forward. Now that we're kind of like at or post-pandemic, it hasn't really been decided. Are we still a pandemic or are we post-pandemic?
I guess that's a good question. Maybe one you guys can decide. So
yeah, who knows? So no, doing a shakedown, it's kind of basically restructuring, because we lost, not necessarily lost people, just people went on their own lives trying to support, and everybody just, because of the COVID, just shut down, and some of us kept pushing to get running, and we're going to be doing back here slowly, and we're getting some more people putting on other places, and also trying to get into more filming projects. And now, because everybody's all touchy right now with the whole COVID this, COVID that, and then with how people are looking at filming now because of what's going on in Hollywood. Indie is kind of being looked at this way. Is indie going to be the new mainstream or sub-mainstream? And so we're looking at how that's going to work and how we can fill the niches in there, because mainstream is okay for right now, but let's go ahead and start still doing baby steps like healing. Everybody got sick and now we're coming out of that, and let's take it one step at a time and start rebuilding what was lost. Because if you don't use it, you lose it. Well, all of us lost a lot of stuff business-wise, mostly during the pandemic. And then, but the three of us figured out, while we're doing this, there's a need, there's something that we can do, and it will help better not only everyone's life macro, but micro is with Ellumeniptical, more of a dealing with humanity. And it's a big, greater, grander thing. And it can't, and I don't want to get too much, because that's Eric's thing to say, but we put together, and it's separate from NAEC, but those of us got together and let's put this company together.
And how'd you three all come together, by the way?
Entertainment industry.
Yeah, okay. We all kind of met different ways. For me, I was looking for, the way that I met Joseph is I was looking for a place to shoot my music video, and he just randomly commented.
Yeah, I was her first stalker.
First talker?
No, seriously.
I'm sorry, first talker?
No, stalk.
He means it in a good way.
I know, I'm kidding.
Joke with us. And then with Eric, what had happened was I was promoting a film that I was in. I was at the premiere. And after I posted that little live, I got a random message from him saying, hi. And I'm like, I got nothing else.
She gets a lot of random messages from guys.
Some of them aren't very nice, but you two are nice.
Well, I gotta say this is that I happen to know you through Joseph as well too, and I was honored to say hello as well. So I did get Joe's permission, right, Joe? I got your permission, right? Yeah, there you go. So we got all that, and Eric, you basically have been in agriculture, horticulture, having a plant farm, and you did some general business contracting, general resourcing in startups, and organizational coaching. But also, most importantly, you've been working in movie theaters, food industry, and also working learning strategies, and you got involved in the independent film industry, publishing and photography, and just about everything like that. First of all, Erica, before getting all that, tell us how you first got started.
In what we're currently doing, or
No,
entertainment?
go the Wayback Machine.
Oh, well, as far as the theater goes, my first job was literally cleaning a theater. And I fell in love with film. I love film. I love everything about film, Americana to overseas foreign film, you know, mainstream indie. I love it. I love every bit of it. I love the idea of telling a story. I think the entire world is based in stories. Everything from selling yourself to an interview, you're just telling a story, to talking about, you know, your experiences with your children, you're telling a story. You know, a politician wants to get elected, the best ones tell a good story. That's all it is. It's just, that's who we are as a species. And film, I think, is one of the ultimate expressions of art when it comes to telling a story. So I fell in love with that, but I kept finding myself coming back to it. But, you know, how many people have dreams of like becoming an actor and just like, it's not realistic. So, you know, instead I went and tried to do the, I guess not really mainstream thing, but tried to do more of a kind of an independent thing where I delivered pizzas for a while and also kind of dabbled in learning from people who are actually in different industries and business. And I did that on and off for about 5 years. And then I finally, you know, actually started my first real business, which is a plant farm. And I ended up ending up in that because I was helping somebody else who was trying to start an agricultural project. But I did it for about 2 seasons. We broke even and we walked away because, frankly speaking, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of manual. It's intense and it's hot and whatnot, but I definitely got a good sense of, you know, balance between equity, cash flow, to all that. I learned all that. Really, really good practical experience. But shortly after that, I got injured.
Ooh.
And at that point, I found myself, as you call it, temporarily disabled. So sitting around thinking a lot and can't really do anything. So it's kind of like, why not? Started playing around with the idea of, you know, writing again.
Okay.
And my own stories, and that just evolved. And fast forward about 3 years from that point, and I'm going, instead of messing around with independent business, I started messing around with independent film. And independent publishing. That kind of evolved and learned a lot from there. And in the process of that, met some remarkable people of all walks in life. And I realized that in the process of that, a lot of the fun wasn't just trying to tell a story or figure out how to tell a story. It was trying to figure out how to do something, which evolved again and evolved again and evolved again. And next thing you know, I found myself in tech. I'm like, I don't know exactly how I ended up here, but I was getting ready to basically launch a full studio project with Raven. And we had spent about 2 years putting this whole thing together.
Yep. And then COVID.
Well, no, and then that's how she introduced
Well, we
me
had the
to Eric.
hurricanes and COVID.
Yeah, that's when we all kind of met each other and different things. Well, that's when something happened in Houston that was a kill-all.
All of our investors were there.
I came a little bit after that Houston situation.
That started a chain reaction of events that led to that whole project falling apart. It just wasn't going to happen. And that hurt. But again, going back to learning, that's when we figured out that instead of messing around with a single market, or instead of messing around with the idea of creating, you know, stories or this or that, and existing in an existing market, what if we were to basically create our own market by creating a market creation machine? And that's when we moved over to the idea of solving problems, but yet still got to pay the bills and still got to be able to pay loans and potential investors and everyone else and create tangible products. So ultimately what that led to was the idea of creating a humanist think tank that creates intellectual properties, patents and, you know, trademarks and whatnot. That then fuels research money that you normally wouldn't be able to get funded because nobody thinks there's any money in it, but it needs to be done.
Right.
So that's how that all happened. Then shortly when we came to the conclusion, okay, should we do it this way, this way, this way? Then the world shut down.
Mhm.
Then that brought us into basically the technology where we ended up at when it comes to energy. And the reason specifically was actually spite. Spite is what took us there
Mhm.
and gave us the
We were
name.
all upset with the prices and the people getting their water and electricity shut off when the world was shut down and there was no way that we could do anything. And it's like, really, you're gonna kick people while they're down? Really?
And the fact that we experienced, or I experienced the first time ever in my life, and mind you, I've been around 46 years.
Mhm.
Scary thought, I've been around 46 years. That a whole state. Now, coming originally from Chicago, I'm used to blizzards. I'm used to that. I've lived in New York, anywhere it's been cold. I mean, but Texas, and I've lived in Texas several times in different parts of the state over my lifetime. I've never seen a state shut down. And mind you, it's Texas. The biggest thing they pride on here, we're our own country. We're our own this. The whole state went shut down because of, was it February 2021?
I think so,
Supposedly,
yeah.
supposedly the
No,
power
I
grid
was-
overshot. It was
I was
2020.
still pregnant, so I think it was 2020. I think COVID was
Yeah,
happening as well.
It was just after like the major COVID restrictions were just now lifting.
I thought it was 2021.
We literally went simultaneously from that to the entire electrical grid being shut down.
Right.
That was an
And-
eye opener for a lot of people that centralized grid systems aren't exactly the most efficient way to run this thing, especially with the fact that it's ever growing, ever changing. Now, the battle between renewable and burnable and all this stuff. And we're talking about, we have to overhaul the whole thing because it's basically 87-year-old technology that's running the whole thing.
And no one was safe. It didn't matter
Yeah.
if you paid your bills or whatnot. If the grid died, the grid died.
Yeah,
And
you were
unfortunately, my grid, the water died. And I was heavily pregnant at the time, and I got dehydrated, and I actually had to be sent to the hospital via ambulance. The ambulance almost couldn't get there because everything was snowed off.
Wow.
Or like,
I was there that day. That was intense.
I because of my part of my disability, I have a CPAP. If you don't familiar with the CPAP, that helps me breathe at night when I'm sleeping. There's nothing like all of a sudden the complete grid shuts down, and all of a sudden you're choking to death.
Oh, yes.
And you wake up and you can't sleep for 2 or 3 days because the grid is shut off and you're freezing. And you have, in my case, at the time, my daughter was a little over a year old.
Yeah.
And we're all huddled in the bedroom. I mean, I literally had to get the dogs, the cat, the two lizard. I mean, the lizard I had cover it all, cover it in one room. It was almost kind of, like you see some of those B movies, or like everybody's huddled in one room, like the day after tomorrow, and we're trying to. All we need now is to start burning tax law books.
Yeah.
Things of that nature, just to keep warm. And then with everybody else's individual experiences and the ideas that I've had for years, and Eric's had for years, and Raven as well, we're like, okay, let's put this together. And now we have things that we're going to be putting together, and that will help the individual and the whole.
And that sounds interesting as well, too. And about you talk about the renewable generator. There's some case studies as well, too, and why we need this. We'll talk about that as part of Ellumeniptical. But first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by SonicWeb Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. SonicWeb Studios is the answer. SonicWeb Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. It's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those who love be the first go missing. It's available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has garnered great reviews, and Evil Evan enjoys by Howard celebrities, including Jonah Cassidy, Forrest Riley, and Eminems. So grab your copy today for it goes Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com on over 40 podcast platforms, heard in 100 countries, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also, Apple Music, iTunes, Google Play, Anchor FM, as well as Odyssey, Radio Public. Subscribe to Mike Wagner Show on YouTube, BitChute, Rumble. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok. Take us with you on any mobile device. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. T-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies. Makes great gifts 24/7. Go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas like t-shirts, pop sockets, hoodies, phone cases, and some more, Amazon.com/Mia Molsonzia. Also for great books like Missing, Once, and Wrinkles. Support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. We're here with the amazing trio of Raven Diamond, Joseph Thomas Bailey, and Erica Fortune of Ellumeniptical here on the Mike Wagner Show. And how'd you come up with the name Ellumeniptical? First of all, just to get started here.
That was insanely impressive, just so you know.
And he said that all in one breath. You know, he
In
had to
one
be
breath.
he had to be a caller on a animal
That
thing.
was
You know,
one continuous sentence. That's a talent. That is a talent, sir.
Well, I credit these two guys for teaching me that. Thank you, Raymond. Thank you, Joe. You guys have a talent right there.
That was awesome. So the name actually, the truth is it's a spinoff of Illuminati because we're secretly lizard people. We're trying to take over the world.
I also
love
said
your
it was also because it was to illuminate humanity as well. So it's kind of like a double.
Yeah, no, what it really means is it's actually a combination or concoction of three words that I kind of crammed together. So you do have, as he said, illuminate. And illuminate generally has two meanings, where you have to cast light into darkness or to cast knowledge into ignorance, right? To illuminate, you know, I've been illuminated, or, you know, to illuminate.
Right, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, you got the word energy. Pretty self-explanatory. It's one of the first things we're working on is energy. And then infinity, or a lamescape specifically, which is the actual symbol. It's called
sign.
Yeah, it's the infinity sign. It's called a lamescape. We combined those three words together and created Ellumeniptical. And then the logo, we decided to make it look like an element on the periodic table. So that's basically the nuts and bricks of where we got the name.
And of course, you also have the product as well, too, being a renewable generator. And, you know, tell us more about the renewable generator, what's it made of, and, you know, how this renewable generator stands out from the rest of the generators being sold and manufactured, you know, throughout the United States and the rest of the world.
Well, the main thing that the problem that exists right now is, so despite whether people having feelings about, let's say, you know, coal or oil or, you know, anything like that, at the end of the day, it's all contingent on a market. The market shoots up, gas prices are too high, right? That right there alone is creates a massive economic uncertainty for a lot of people. You know, I mean, the president could sneeze wrong and it'll affect markets by you know, pennies that can compound, and next thing you know, it's up like $2 or $3. You know, an executive order can completely destroy those markets. So there's a lot of economic uncertainty, despite the actual debate between, you know, is global warming occurring, or, you know, climate change and all that jazz. At the end of the day, I always tell this to people who are trying to sell people on renewable energy is go after their pocketbooks. If it's the more appealing product, it'll work. Because it's really hard to, like, say, look at a mother of three, a single mother of three, and tell her she needs to buy an electric car for $30-something thousand when she can barely afford the Buick that she has. Her concern is not the environment. Her concern is feeding her kids. You got to appeal to people. And if you appeal to people by creating a better product, you'll end up helping the environment in the end. You got to make it a people thing. And if it's not, it's forced, then it's resented, and that alters elections and creates a big deal. So that's the first thing to understand about what is really going on, and one of the reasons why we chose to do this particular technology. It's got to be cost effective. It's got to be cost effective. Two, it's got to be efficient. It's got to be effective, and frankly, it's got to be dummy proof. It's got to just work. So again, it needs to be simple, efficient, effective, and cheap. Okay. So now,
and environmentally sound.
Exactly. Now, how many other places can you apply it? That means it needs to be scalable, hyper scalable at that. Again, it's hyper scalable.
Mhm.
It works. It can work anywhere. We can bring it down. We can bring it up. That's
And
the
it
point.
can also assist existing grids, because we're not
Yes.
going to be able to, completely redo a grid in like a year. That's not possible.
Mhm.
So
Mm-mm.
it needs to be
It's
able
not.
to assist what we already have to give us time to move on to the
Yeah.
next biggest thing. Because if you look at California, when they were having those heat waves, they had to decide between their electric cars and their air conditioners because their grid just couldn't support it.
Mhm.
Yeah, and they were
And that's
talking
going
about
and that's going back to that almost close to a century grid that we've been working on since what
Yeah.
almost close to 1930s, 40s, or even prior, depending on
Or
what locations, Mike.
or maybe like 1900s when the Industrial Revolution. Think about it. You
Yeah,
have
that's if you're in
started
New
like
England.
all
Yeah.
the factories, the steel mills, the automobile plants, and just about everything possible. It's like running on electric and just about everything. And before that, everything's done by candlelight, manual labor. Industrial Revolution required the grid
Right.
as well too. And of course, talking about the central grid as well too. And of course, the influx of it, the uncertainty, and everybody's talking about the electric cars, and will the renewable generator, help, power up the electric cars and everything else. That's been the number one concern of the electric cars.
yes.
Oh, we have that already figured out. But go on, Aaron.
Yeah, we'll get to that at a later show, because that's going to be fun. That's something I'd love to come back on your show and talk about at a later date for obvious reasons, if that's all right.
That's fine. And also too, the renewable generator, you went for the benefits of it as well too. And of course, with all the generators out there, it's like you have some generators that last 5, 10, 15, 20, 50, 100 years and everything else, depending on the generator, how much you invest in a generator and everything else. And how long can this renewable generator last for?
Well, the idea is, all right, so let's say I give you a box.
Mm-hmm.
You connect your box. Okay. Power goes out.
Mm-hmm.
Never noticed. Power comes back on. Never noticed. It sits there. It's got sensors on it that let you know that, hey, external source, you should probably check this out or not check this out.
Mm-hmm.
The idea wasn't that I wanted to create a supplemental source that we measure in traditional terms. I wanted to create something that can literally power your house.
Mm-hmm.
So that the whole thing, let's put it this way. The problem with innovation is that it's constantly stagnated by comfort or are the two reasons. So look at something like the flat screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great, except that technology and that idea has been around since sci-fi. The technology has been around since probably, it's arguably 60s, 70s. It's been accessible since about the 90s, which is, it's expensive and, oh my God, this is really cool. It's plasma screens and all that jazz. And then the focus was then, okay, let's make it to where we can make them smaller for phones. We can make them bigger and we make them cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And that's where the focus goes. But we get so focused on that, we forget to take the next step beyond the technology. So what you always have is these great breakthroughs. And then everyone focuses on these breakthroughs for the next 50, 60, 70 years, and there's no innovation.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's happening in America right now. It's just the stagnation of innovation.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much about market capitalization. I mean, honestly, look at something like, your favorite smartphone and look at the one that just came out compared to the one that came out before it, right? You're like, what's the difference? Okay, so this can do a little bit more, or this one's got a few more this, or this, it's the same thing. It's essentially the same thing, but it's all about just keeping cash flow going.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's almost like a reboot of 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 a reboot, just like in the entertainment industry. Reboot of like, how many reboots have we had of a reboot of a reboot of a reboot? You come on, theater people. How many? Seriously. Of what
so
movie?
Come on, let's go with Mike.
There was-
Let's go with Spider-Man there. Can't figure out what we're
so
doing
many
there.
of
Oh my
Or
God.
Batman or Superman.
I lost track of that stuff. Yeah.
Or Superman. Come on.
Yeah, but no, so the reason I bring all that up is that's essentially what we're trying to do with the electric grid is we're like, we can see the failures. You can see where it overheats. You can see where it overloads. You can see that it can't handle the capacity of the new technologies. Like you said, the electric cars, it can't handle. If everybody had an electric car, this thing it wouldn't work.
Mm-hmm.
It would not work. There would be fires everywhere. It's just too much power. It's too much draw. right? So
It's very much similar to like when we taught, like just everybody else to understand, if to keep it simplistic, when we were growing up, we're told, don't put too many plugs in a wall outlet.
I
You
remember
put,
that, and I was like,
yeah.
yeah, or you put a little small,
Overload
you
it,
put
okay.
a three, like three plug in one, and a one plug in one, so you can put six in a wall. Then you put extensions, and that is basically, and it's just dumbing it down to the micro level versus the macro, right? Is
mhm.
after a while you're going to burn out what your
Right.
that source, and then you got to come in and repair it. Then or if it's accessible to repair, you got to look at all the possibilities and variables to that. Where
Well, that
in this
and
case, we try to close to eliminate that. Is that correct, right?
yeah, well, that and it also creates the monopolization where only a few companies have access to the line repair, which quite frequently, basically, pardon the expression, screws people over at the bill, because you'll get a light bill and it's like $300, and the light bill it'll be like, okay, why is it $300? And you look at it and the electric use is like 120, and the rest is service fees, maintenance fees, all these other fees. Like, whoa, dude. So over
And of course, you got the
50%,
regulatory commission fees
yeah,
and state
that
fees
in
and whatever. It's like a king scroll of it too. It's like longer than a
yeah,
CVS receipt, pretty much. So,
It's kind of like also being in the feudal era. We have to
yeah,
pay
and there's
this
also
lord. We have to pay this
exactly
lord. We have to pay this lord.
that, and there's also overwhelming incentives for them to build massive power plants that we don't necessarily need.
Mhm.
And the reason that is that generally the law says that, hey, you can keep 10% of what it costs to make them. So that's a simple no-brainer. Okay, so then I should build one that costs $3 billion, $4 billion, $5 billion, because our profit margin is contingent on how expensive that is.
Mhm.
Okay, well, the rest of that gets paid by us. That's the point.
And my concern is also, I've seen through history, and you've been around this, Mike. Think about it. If we were to have something like Chernobyl here,
Yes. Oh my
now,
gosh. I
They're
think that
already
would just.
starting to with what happened in Palestine with their water.
Mhm.
Yeah,
right? But
Palestine, Ohio.
well,
Mhm.
not
another
only,
thing
but then you're also having like
is
uranium issues that no one talks about. And I'm going a little on one end, because everyone was talking about Flint, Michigan, and all that other stuff, but no one's talking about what's going on Navajo Reservation, where the uranium digging and everything else polluted the whole water table there. But no
Mhm.
one's talked about it for over 3 or 4 years. But that's besides it. But I'm looking at like if you was it? There's I think there's a nuclear reactor somewhere around the Florida Panhandle that's on a fault line, and it's
Yes.
a semi.
I think I read something about that. And of course, if Chernobyl would have happened in the States, half the country would be toast practically.
Or what happened at that in Japan? Was it about during the pandemic or just before the pandemic?
it was
That
just
whole
before
radioactive,
That was just before the pandemic.
yeah,
right?
it was a major
We
earthquake
have
and it offset the entire reactor system, and they had to literally go in and just super cool it down as fast as possible. Otherwise,
eh,
you had about, I think it was like 4 or 5 million people within the adjacency of the meltdown. Like they had to act instantly, and yet that was no fault to any human being. That was just the earth doing what the earth does.
right,
Mhm.
and most people look at when, and I don't know if you know, but Mike, but a nuclear reactor is an overpowered a steam engine. Or
Mhm.
Basically,
generator. That how you used to shovel coal and back in the 1800s and get
Oh yeah, I remember that.
the steam turbine. Okay, that you and I lived it back then. These young kids don't know.
Well, we can still they're teachable. Am I right? Aren't they teachable these days or trying to?
But on the serious note, but basically what you have is a funnel. You have water, and you have a heat source, and you have fan blades.
Mhm.
Okay, and whatever else they put in, but they keep it simplistic. It's an overpowered nuclear steam generator,
Mhm.
which can have any problem. We've seen you and I lived through Chernobyl, not through the time frame, not there, but we've seen these things that happen, and the question comes up: when are these nuclear things no longer viable?
Right, exactly. And don't forget 3 Mile Island as well, too. That even goes further back, 3 Mile Island, especially for those United States. And getting back to the renewable generator as well, too. What are the materials that are are required to build a renewable generator, and what are these parts of made of?
well, the funny thing about this is actually we're focused more on 3D printing out of base materials. Base materials are easier to break down, which means it's easier to recycle, but more importantly, we can use recyclable materials for them. So it's more about setting a precedent to ensure that we never have that problem. Like again, solar, for instance, one of the number one issues with solar panels is, first of all, we've made too many that are actually being used. So you've got tons of them sitting in there. If you, the amount of carbon that's used for one, that amount of carbon you have to run that thing, your standard one, for like 15 to 30 years consecutively to get that balance out. But that's not what they're being used for. A lot of them, they're using for supplementary sources. Second of all, is when you break them down, the material is hard to recycle. It's just, it's almost unrecyclable. So it's like, so we kept that in mind with this, that we don't want to create an additional problem by accident by solving another problem. You know, we didn't want to just pass the carbon needle to the next thing. We didn't want to do that. So
and then with cost, we had to keep that in mind too, because if we make it too expensive, the normal American cannot get to it. We also want these to be used for disaster relief, and disaster relief sometimes doesn't have a lot of funds, depending on the situation. So we wanted it to be available for then. And then if you look at the old grid, everything is going to the watt, which is pretty scary. So we need something that the US can use. And then if we have a surplus of energy, then we can, you know, export out that energy, and give the US something to still barter with and deal with and all of that, because it's pretty crazy what's going on with oil right now.
What if we no longer use 40% of our oil?
What I was also going to say, Eric, was we also look at internationally, third world. You know, third world countries.
We were just going to get that point too. Yes, about not just the U.S. Yeah,
right. But or then you know, and Eric and I have had this conversation. We're looking at a third world country that we're talking to or close to that. Then of course we already have third world countries equal to third world countries in U.S. borders. Those are Native American reservations.
I hate the terminology third world country.
But you know, and same thing in Canada, you have third world country reserves, you know, countries, native indigenous nations, not tribes, that are like second, third world countries because they don't have the sustainability of anything. And this is also, it's going to branch out.
We are currently, I have a longtime friend of mine. He's a longtime friend of mine. He lives in Africa. And as we feed you more information on how this is going, we are definitely bringing him into the mix and going to explain a little bit about what we're doing there. But there's a huge example that we have this place, and if we can do this there, we can do it anywhere. There's no excuse. One of the major things that I'm concerned with, I really am concerned with this as not just somebody who's, I guess, starting a company, but somebody, you know, I'm challenging an idea. I get it. I totally get that. It's a challenge of an idea. We do not need fuel anymore. That's a hell of a statement to say to a lot of people who make billions of dollars off of fuel.
But they could make even more money if the US doesn't need it and they can just export all of it.
Right. But not only that, what it really comes down to is the easiest way to stop this technology from existing is to stop the spread of the information. Whereas if enough people hear about it right off the bat, the second we debut it, you can't stop it. The one thing a cockroach hates is the light. I've never forgot that statement. I heard that when I was a kid. I've never forgot that. You want to expose a liar? Just tell the truth. Just tell the truth. If you want to show something new, then make sure enough people see it so we can't stop the spread of it. But going back to your last question, the whole issue with the grid right now, the major concern with the grid is that if you had to look at this from A, B, C, D, right? A would be your power plant, right? So B would be like where that goes out to just redistribute. Okay. C would probably be your, like, you know, little breaker at the end of the box. Every once in a while you'll hear a pah, you know, that's one of them blowing.
Oh yeah, we've had those. I had to deal with those from time to time, replacing fuses, switching,
and that's not even talking
whatever
about relay stations. You might, depending on your distance, you have to have a relay station, which is an amplification, but then you lose output by X amount of percentage.
Right. Yeah. And then at the end of that totem pole is D, which is us. So the thought is, what if we went and we switched the grid to a binary system where A is now us, where we less centralize, and we ensure that we're producing power every block. my power goes out, my system goes down, it's okay, my neighbor's got my back, both of them, right? From there, if a whole block goes out, another block can cover it. What you do is you
It's just a
indirectly,
redundancy.
yeah, what you end up doing is you basically, I mean, the best way to say it, I mean, if someone like Wozniak was around in this conversation, they probably call it the democratization of power. You give the power to the people, literally.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, then the idea of charging by the watt is gone. The idea of someone's power going out because they're too poor, it's gone. The idea of a storm knocking it out, it's gone. That does, you literally have to wipe the whole city out for this to turn it off. You're talking about minimal line repair. You're talking about relay stations that are designed to literally transfer energy. You don't need massive power plants in this system. It's hell of a lot cheaper. It's cleaner. It's a lot cleaner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the only people who truly benefit from it are the people who are manufacturing it and the people themselves.
Mm-hmm.
This means the people who make money on power on oil reserves, they're not going to like that unless that becomes the export, the major
Okay.
export.
We do. We've successfully done it in the history of the U.S. We've had lots of exports before. We used to export a lot more than we use, but now it's kind of opposite. We use a lot more than we export. And so we need to flip those numbers, which would help our economy, which would, I'm sure, make the people that are selling it very happy because they'll get more money out of it. And it would also help our environment by switching.
Yeah, I
And
mean, the
I look
domestic
at it-
growth would be through the roof.
Mm.
It would
I
be
look at it-
absolutely through the roof.
I look at it in a certain respect, you know, like one of my favorite things for when you're dealing with physicists and theorists and all, it would be Tesla, Nikola
Mhm.
Tesla.
Yeah.
The man was way beyond his years and a very true visionary on many levels. The thing is, there's a lot of theories and conspiracies, but the thing is, he did not have at the time, which we do have at the time, is people like yourself, Mike, and others who can get the word out on the masses.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean,
And-
don't
and-
forget
and-
that when he actually made a major presentation at the World's Fair showing, well, here, I'll show you exactly what he showed, the form of this. So here's my little light, right? So this is just a basic light, it's 40
Mhm.
watts, okay? And it's plugged in right over here. Well, let's go ahead and unplug this and let's do a magic trick.
Uh-huh.
This is what he showed everybody. I'm powering that. That's my kinetic energy is now powering this light.
Oh, wow. Okay.
See,
And that ain't no
that's not
trick
a
light
trick.
either.
Here's the cord. Here's the wire. This is just a regular lamp. It's 40. If it's a 40-watt bulb, you can do this. You can do this
Uh-huh.
yourself anywhere you want. I'm a battery. You're a battery.
If it's more
The
than
average
40 watts,
person
it
who's
doesn't work.
streaming-
But if it's 40 watts, it works.
Yeah. Well, I mean, unless you're Raven, for instance, she's got a little bit more charge to her.
I have
Yeah,
bridle,
we have to be careful with Raven on that one. She's,
That's
you know,
not a
she's
joke.
we call her
Really-
Sparky for a reason.
It's not a joke. Like, her husband calls her Palpatine. Like it's funny, like electric and all that jazz. But
Yeah, he's
So what
got an
we did-
implant, and we've had to go to the hospital a couple times to get it reset because I've zapped it and screwed up the settings.
Oh, my
Yes.
goodness.
that's really happened. So some people a little bit more than others, but your average person can do that.
Well,
I mean,
and
think
it's,
about it. If you've seen the Matrix, I mean, they were.
I was going to
actually
say that
big
the Matrix. Remember how the Matrix? We
So-
are bio machines that are, and we have bioenergy.
biomechanical. We're
Right, we're
biomechanical.
and the
Our brain
theoretical
itself
stuff
is a
behind that, I
biomechanical
have a field day with, because the
Yeah.
theoretical application, just utilizing that is mind blowing.
So back to this point, what he did was he said that energy, there's kinetic energy, and it's literally in the air. So what he did was pull it from the sky. He literally pulled it from the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is where he effed up. He said the one thing you don't say in a capitalist country, we could do it for free.
Especially
So all these
especially
people-
at that time frame.
yeah, everyone.
And the fact that
everyone
everyone was
looked at
like pro democracy, communist, and he was not coming from a democratic point. He was coming
Yeah.
from that part of the world was like
that.
non.
Yeah,
He was
where
talking
everything
about
was free,
the
right?
species. Yeah, he was talking about the species. He was literally saying this is for the good of all of us.
Mhm.
That's what he was saying. So the second he said that, all the powers to be backed off, and then they backed Edison.
Which stole a lot of his ideas anyway.
I remember reading that story. That was tragic.
Yeah, but that's literally what happened. And again, there was things where he was talking about that was completely insane because he didn't know better. Like he was talking about sending electricity. Okay, well, here's the problem with sending electricity. If you try to send electricity through the air, God be with whatever's between those 2 points because it's incinerated instantly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you up the G count too high on a signal, you can fry somebody,
Microwave,
really
yeah.
hurt them.
Which is why we
Yeah,
have
so
that, like we have 5G,
sending electricity like that.
5G things,
Yeah, so it just really wasn't, tangible, but he didn't know that. He also didn't know effective ways to truly store energy if he pulled it from the sky. He had no idea how to do that. And that's because the battery systems that they had were based in certain liquids and very early minerals. Now we have everything from lithium ion, which is kind of volatile, but
gel
it's
pack.
it's pretty strong to gel pack to standard lithium, which is frankly pretty dope. And they work. So now there's the gravity, or not the gravity, the dirt battery. It's got a special name, I forget what it is, but earth battery. And it's basically just concentrated earth, very heavy, but it's very effective, completely organic. I mean, if he had access to that stuff, I wonder what he would have been able to do.
I guess that's
going to Joe's point.
I guess that's a really good question as well, too. And you talk about these alternative energies. Have you considered making it as part of your package of Ellumeniptical?
Well, yeah, within the realm of, I think it's better when it comes down to it is find the most effective that is cost effective and will benefit the most people, start there. And then apply it to multiple different things. Then move on to the next one. That way you don't end up getting into what I talked about before, stagnation. Because if you literally, one of the brilliant things about Apple, when Apple first started, Apple literally was in the business of innovating. Now, a lot of people talk about, the success of it. Well, the truth is actually, Apple had one successful product that carried them for a good many decades, and nothing else really stuck until they went back to the roots of that original product, relaunched, and then there's this nice, pretty thing. And then from there, introduced an entirely completely new technology, which of course became the iPhone, which again, complete innovation. That I think is probably the most sane business model, is that if you focus on a product that works and then use that, create other sources of income or revenue along the way, whether it be subsidiary corporations, whether it be, getting people to just, to donate, whether it be licensing, taking that, and then from there, using that to invest in stuff that's a little bit higher risk, but actually might do some really good, it'll either work or it won't, but you then lessen the risk to the overall investor, you lessen the risk to the market, but you're always innovating. That's our approach. That's what we're going to be doing.
And I mean, we've mentioned that several different spots where we're going to be doing it. As I said before, emergency like relief aid, which would be good for everything from disasters to even military uses. If the military needed to be somewhere that there was no energy, they would have a generator. This could
Without
be
having to bring in
used.
huge amounts of oil.
Right.
Or,
Like those
and
Deuce Halfa trucks that have their diesel generators. Those things are heavy, noisy, whatever, and they have a lot of heat. Okay, yeah, one of these the generators that he's discussing, it has a low heat signature. It's quiet, and it produces more than it needs to for an output.
Yeah, the one that
you can regulate the output.
Yeah, the one that I originally designed, I called it a coffin because it just kind of looked like that on paper. But I was like, this is a working title. I'll have a different, prettier name for it. But basically, all it is, it's just a tube. The end result is a tube that can go in the back of a truck, or it can be airlifted in, and it's mounted, and it's just covered with USB ports. So imagine a disaster area. You have a bunch of different people. They can come up and literally just do the one thing that they need to do. Put a tower system on it, relay a signal. People can come and plug in their phone, let people know, hey, I'm alive.
Nice.
That one thing will do a tremendous amount of good, not to mention create a relay point until a power system.
For emergency relief responders to talk to each other.
Two or three of those into a place like Haiti, when Haiti happened, that really disastrous state, 2 or 3 of those things would have changed everything. It would have made it so much more streamlined. So that's what they're referring to when they keep talking about the disaster relief. creating drop units like that can literally go to places and help people when they're in desperate need, dire need.
So we have that extreme that we're thinking about. We have the supporting our current system and our current grid so we can avoid what we all experienced. And then also making it to where we have a surplus of both oil and energy to sell to try to get the economy to come back up. So that way everyone's happy. Because the people that have the oil, they just want to sell it. And if that means that they can export it for a higher price now because there's more of it, they'll make more money and we'll make money and everyone will be happy.
Well, that's the number one thing you don't want to happen. You do not want this to happen. And this scares the hell out of me, is if all of a sudden a huge shift in the market occurs and then you get 1 million layoffs in the oil industry. It's the largest, holders of domestic jobs. That would hurt a lot more than it would ever help.
And Mike, do you remember the gas shortage of 79?
What's that?
Do you remember the gas shortage in 79?
I remember that, although I was 15 and getting ready to drive. And I think people were like complaining about, what was it? Going up to 99 cents a gallon, $1.29 or $2. And everybody was crying about it. I mean, nowadays, $1.99 is considered super affordable.
Well, now you've lived through that. I was a little child, but I remember being in line for gas. You remember, you're a little bit older than I am. Now, there was a to give you an idea, we're looking at what, and I'm going to ask this question and postulate it. I saw a documentary or a mockumentary of a possibility that the world wound up with wearing out of fuel, or the common world. Only select governments and top people had this, and everybody. It was almost like apocalyptic. Okay, what's stopping that? If something was to happen where all of a sudden, because we can actually technically be the whole planet can be Shanghai and be put on hold if certain countries turn around and say we're not doing this anymore. At what point because it's finite. What we're describing for what we're looking at doing with and doing the theories and apply theories to actual futuristic and to bring to modern day technology is no longer finite. It's close to infinite, or it is
switching as well.
Right.
So,
it gradually, so
the jobs,
we're no longer have dependent.
Yeah, as we mentioned, the jobs, if we were to remove those jobs from the market, that would hurt so bad. We don't want to do that. As long as we have oil, we want those jobs. So again, they can just sell whatever their excess, their export, all of that. But if one day they do run out, we want to make sure that we have another industry we can put those people in, that we just switch the job. That way that person's still employed.
I think a realistic plan that if like, for instance, my major problem right now with a lot of people who are, diehard energy junkie or renewable energy junkies is I know they mean well. So I don't knock their passion. I knock the practicality of it. Because let's take something like do you remember the 2008 collapse?
I remember that. Yes.
Okay. Well, the funny thing about it, that was anywhere from 6 to 8% of the economy. That was it. As bad as it got, that was 6 to 8%. That's all. The Great Depression was about 20, right? If you were to stop that industry, if you were to stop the oil industry, you're looking at probably 36 to 40% of the economy. Just
minimum.
Correct. Yeah. It's not just U.S. it'd be world economy.
Yeah, that's not gonna hurt. That's not the depression. That's the freaking purge. That's riots. That's people in the street. That's bloodbath. You can't do that. So my approach is always, whenever I talk to people who are really diehard about this, is as I'm like, look, I get where you're coming from, but you've got to have a practical approach. You've got to have 1, 2, 3, 4. And
you have to work with both.
You've got to make a transitional plan. If you don't have a transitional plan, it's going to be nothing but resistance, and that's what's going on right now. Somehow, energy became political, just like the vaccination became political, COVID became political, voting became political. Guys, quit making science political. I understand how it's very tempting to make everything political, but sometimes it just comes down to 1 + 1 = 2.
Right.
Either it does or it doesn't.
And of course, everybody knows about the Biden administration, having all these restrictions and making everything a big issue. Do you think the next administration is going to be more cooperative to what you're doing and be more open, or would it continue with Biden's policies?
I think whoever gets elected right now, they're going to run on an American first plan, because it's the only way that they're going to have any cohesion or get anything done. It looks like right now locally, and this isn't me endorsing one side or the other, this is just an observation. I try to be an independent at all costs. I try to because I don't want to get lost in propaganda,
Right.
But,
or misunderstood, misconstrued, twisted,
or an echo
whatever
chamber.
it is. Yes.
I like I said, I study epistemology at all costs, at the forefront of everything. And epistemology is the study of knowledge itself. The one thing you don't want to do is to get stuck in an echo chamber. It is so tempting. It's so easy. This sounds good. It's comfortable. It makes sense. And then next thing you know, that's all you're hearing, but you might miss some relevant truths that are going on because you're in an echo chamber. That being said, it looks like politically the local systems that are going on, you have a lot of, frankly speaking, democratic policies that are just not working in some places, but are working great in other places. Okay. So whichever party figures this out and starts making this the national narrative, he says, what works for some doesn't work for all.
True.
Right? Whoever openly says that, and then they put parental rights at the top of the docket, they put local manufacturing at the top of the docket, and they put independent energy, America, put that at the top of the docket. Whoever runs on that, they're going to win. They're going to win local. They're going to win local. That's going to give you Congress. That's going to give you the Senate. You put those two factors together, it doesn't matter if Biden gets reelected or not. If it's all Republican, he's lame duck. He's not going to get anything done. Right? Let's say Trump gets reelected. Well, I mean, that is literally his entire ticket. So you've got a lot of really interesting things politically happening in this country that are going to dramatically affect, frankly, the next 55 years. Everything from what she was talking about with the currency shift in certain markets being switched from the dollar to the yen. That's we're not going to feel that tomorrow. Right. But we are going to feel that in a couple of years. Because what that does is gives you an excessive ability to borrow a lot more capital than normal, which gives you access to a lot more markets, freely exchange capital. Once that starts to get more difficult, well, growth then is affected. Growth is affected, price is affected. And we've already had inflation issues, which is a combination of a bunch of different things. Bad policies, over spending, labor shortages,
excessive, and of course, federal programs and all that stuff too. And of course, you got the NFTs, blockchains, and whatever else.
Yeah, you put all that together, you've just got this concoction of nonsense going on right now. And whoever runs locally on the ticket, because don't get me wrong, I understand how a lot of people believe that we're really divided when we're not. That's the tragedy. What you have is a bunch of theologians, or us, people who are embracing theology, and it's a small fringe group, and they're the loudest of the Republicans, but they're not the majority of them. And then on the other side, you have a lot of ideologues who aren't putting religion first; they're putting an ideology first, and they're the loudest, and they're on the left. These small fringe groups have got everybody so convinced that we're at each other's throats. If I walk up to any American on the street and I say, "Are you concerned with crime?" They're like, "Yeah." Everybody is concerned with it. Are you concerned with the economy? Yeah. Are you concerned that schools are getting out of hand? Yeah. Are you concerned with government overreach? Yeah. Are you concerned with practical restrictions? Yeah. I don't mind regulations. I just want them to make sense. Do you have an issue with gay rights? Well, no, not really. Okay. Do you have an issue with women's rights? Not really. Everybody's pretty much on the same page about 99.9% of everything. The only thing we ever do is just kind of argue on how to get there. But these two fringes would have us convinced that it's like absolute anarchy and war. And that's really being perpetuated a lot by, media sources and sensational news. You need a crisis every 15 minutes, which is insane. And I mean, the best thing that we can do, and one of the reasons I wanted to come here, the one reason I wanted to do it this way, is if we just, pardon the expression, if we just stopped screaming at each other, I mean, for like 2 seconds, and started talking like we're doing right now, we could crush every one of these problems. I mean, this is America. This is literally America. I mean, I am proud to be an American. And the reason I'm proud to be an American is because not every time we've done something wrong, we've corrected it or tried to correct it. And I look at all the achievements we've done, everything from the Industrial Revolution to the creation of steel, to the internet, right? The assembly line, you know, we are pretty remarkable people. I mean, good Lord, we were hyper xenophobic. Then a country bombed us, right? All of a sudden we brought everybody together, and then it was World War II. Nice sound. My point
That was my cat. She's running around.
When Americans actually put aside our nonsense and we put a goal, polio was a great example. You know, we can solve anything. We've proven that over and over and over and over again. We've just got to get to the point where we put basic logic first. 1 + 1 = 2. If a politician is saying that that's not true, don't elect them.
With that spirit, like I said, coming together, that's what myself, Raven, and Eric are doing.
The species.
We are coming. We have to look at the long haul. Are we going to survive? And in nature, we learned this even. What happens if a species or something becomes stagnant way too long?
Dead.
It dies out.
Pretty much, yeah. Just like happened in Cuba. It's like, it was the liveliest country, back in the 50s as well, too. Great tourism spot and all that. And then when Castro took over Cuba, implemented communism, everything went dead. And what you see, like, go to Cuba right now, it's like they're stuck in a time warp. Like they're still in the 60s, probably.
Right. But I refer to a lot of things of nature because we're and I was telling Eric, I'm when it comes to the theories and stuff that I'm looking at when we're doing to contribute, is we have to work with nature, utilize nature, and give back to nature, like a trifecta.
Right,
recycling or whatever, like the Celtic knot or whatever you want, whatever. Simply, but the idea is, if you work with nature, you and you utilize nature, and you give back to nature, it comes back. It's circular. It's renewable. It's recircular. Going back then to this technology with the generator, it's working with nature. It's utilizing nature, and it's giving back through nature to nature. It works.
And it works in the concept of, I keep saying it, but I'll say it one more time. It works on the simplest concept of 1 + 1 = 2. That's it.
Right.
That's it. Now, once it's ready, and like I said, the last piece of the puzzle will be here around the 15th. Once it's done, we're projecting about a 2 to 3 week assembly and full testing of the show product. Once that's done, I would love to coordinate with you and anyone else who's interested to show it off to as many people as physically possible.
What he would love to have happen, I'm joking this, but maybe remember when in the Iron Man where he was Iron Man movie, he's showing off this whole thing, the grandiose, and doing this all the other stuff with before War Machine got there. Hey, Tony Stark. Okay, well,
I remember, good old Tony Stark. Yeah.
If we could do something like that and show it, hey. But he's describing like this to do something like that on a micro scale. If we could do something on a micro scale, great. But baby steps, micro scale. We would love to be able to do this once we're ready to rock and roll with this one product. We have several other things that we're discussing, which he's gonna, whenever we discuss and you say yes, we're going to open up to it. We'd like to be able to talk to you about it once things start rolling out. But again, that would be a decision between the three of us at the moment. But right now we have this one product that is going to be very unique.
Pretty much. And of course, we described it all in general as well, too. And once again, where can we get more information about it, guys?
I'll feed it. We're going to be feeding it out. Like I said, the major mark is on the 15th. We want to make sure the part hits the scheduled date. The second the part comes in, the last piece of the puzzle, we'll start regularly feeding information.
Okay.
The timeline.
We do have a Facebook. We do have a website. We are going to be updating it as we get to the points where we feel like we can release certain information.
Okay. All right. We will certainly do that. And make sure you keep this up to date. We're with.
We also, and we all in Ellumeniptical also has a LinkedIn account, has a LinkedIn page, and yeah, we're getting everything. Everything's being like on a chessboard. Here. So it'd be very hard pressed to say, We couldn't find out about you. We couldn't find you. We couldn't. There was not even a footprint of you on the web. No, that we're trying to quash that. So there should be no logical excuse. And I say that, and I force that logical. There's illogic on things, but logical excuse to say, well, I couldn't find you and I know nothing about y'all.
And certainly do so as well too. And what's the website, and how can people get a hold of you guys?
Raven.
So the website is just our name, Ellumeniptical.com.
Spell it.
Do it.
Do it. Do it. Do it.
Make me do this. So Ellumeniptical spelled ELLUMENIPTICAL.com. If I was to spell that in the military alphabet, that would be Echo, Lima, Lima, Uniform, Mike, Echo, November, India, Papa, Tango, India, Charlie, Alpha, Lima.
I
Cool, now
like
do
that.
Mandarin.
You rattled off pretty well.
Yeah, she's been hanging around a lot of other guys. And I just brought a tear to my. I feel like
Now
very
do it,
nostalgic
do it.
for being back in the army.
Now do it in Mandarin.
Military brat. So
Do it in Mandarin. Do it in a different language.
No,
I'm not going to do that, Eric.
No? Okay.
No,
Those
we
are-
don't want to. No, we don't do. No, no. Okay, no.
No, that'd be another time as well. So we're here with Raven Diamond, Joseph Thomas Bailey, and Eric Fortune of Ellumeniptical here on the Mike Wagner Show. And guys, a very big thank you for your time. You guys have been all amazing. And any
No,
final
thank
thoughts
you.
before we go?
Eric, you're the CEO. You're the man on this one.
My only thought is, I hope I hope sanity grips us all again. I really do. I mean, here's a fun fact for you. So, do you remember the show The Jetsons?
I remember the Jetsons. Yes, growing up.
George
should already be
Jetson. George Jetson, according to the Jetson timeline, he was born about 3 years ago. So if
Yeah,
he's
we
40,
should already be there.
if he's 40 in the show, we've got 30 years to catch up.
Huh, interesting. Where's Astro in the process? Can we still catch him?
I hope so.
Or look at Back to the Future Part 2.
Rosie.
Remember?
Yeah.
You know.
But the point is we can, if we start to value the right things again. I mean, this country is the country of entrepreneurs. We have to innovate again. We have to push forward. And I think Elon Musk said it best. We've got to be excited about the future. And right now we're so lost in the moment. We're so lost in the dredge, in the drudgery of it all. And if we just pull ourselves out of it, stop screaming at each other, and focused on actual tangible solutions, just imagine what we could accomplish.
It's very similar to one of the things when I was in the infantry. Like I'm in the infantry. I'm the infantry. Follow me. Well, along that concept, I was like, follow me, follow us, and also follow into the future, to a better, brighter future, because we have to think of not ourselves only, but our children, our grandchildren. Hey, our legacy. We have to think ahead. My father raised me with the fact of a native concept, or an older thought. You're responsible for 7 generations that came before you. You keep track, and so you remember them, like genealogy and stuff. And you have to think about 7 generations forward.
True. Yes, very true.
And you have to think about it, and you look at it also. You got to know, and this is very transcendent. You have to know where you've been to know where you are, to know where you're going. That is not only generational, but that's in yourself, because look at your past. Where have you been? Where are you at now? And where are you looking and wishing to go? And what is tangible to get there? We not only should we look at it as individuals and families, community, but as a species. We're supposed to, by the native tradition, by the way, and if you want to apply that to all humanity, we are the caretakers of this planet. We are failing.
Right. And right. Yes.
And we need to do better. We need to be better. We have to think that we can be, when I look, all the sci-fi, you and I grew up with it, we're going to be in space by the year 2000. We're going to have colonies on the moon. We're going to have colonies in Mars. We're going to be a full-blown, at least within our own solar system, we're going to be a solar, whatever the fancy term, a solar civilization, right? We haven't even got past the bloody combustion engine, and that's over 120 years old.
Oh my gosh. I mean,
we have to be better and do better. That's where he's talking about that we become stagnant in the little things and the money instead of, can we be better? Can we make better? Innovation will lead the way and will better us. But if we so worry about that one innovation and all this other stuff, yes, we take safety precautions, but it's still, we need to be better. We have to think better.
The magic number is 0.7. I can't ever get that number out of my head.
Explain that to him, Eric. I know, and I know we're trying to not drag it up, but there's a reason to this, Mike. So please bear with us.
So
we look at the bigger picture, the smaller, and we look at the micro and the macro. All the
exactly.
time.
I understand.
So go on, Eric. Sorry.
You're good. So the energy index that is used to measure what a civilization is, what type it is, and what its likelihood to obtain basically immortality. If you spread out a species over long enough or a large enough area and give them enough resources, then a star could collapse. It's not going to wipe the species out. And anything could occur. War is not going to stop them. Nothing can stop them. What is the index to get to that point? It's a 3. Problem is, we're 0.7. We're not even a type 1 civilization yet. We're not even a type 1 civilization, which means that we've mastered the ability to provide resources and to harness the energy of one planet. We're not even a 1. We are 0.7. And yet we have the internet. We've discovered atomic energy. We understand, mapping the body, cellular, mitosis. There's a million things that we've got access to, and we figured out. And yet every time we go to implement these things, we just fail epically.
Or it's run into by red tape and everything else too. So
yeah. Everybody wants to control it for whatever
reason. The thing
reason.
is, a lot of it's not needed. And we're willing to work with the people that want to work with us. We're willing to hold hands with oil. We're willing to hold hands with local government, all of that stuff. We're willing to hold hands with the liberals, the Republicans, Democrats. It doesn't matter. Whoever wants to make this world better for their children and for the generations to come, we want to work with them. We would love to work with them.
And I think that's fair.
Do you have an example, Mike? You ever wondered, when we were watching Star Trek, Star Wars?
I remember, yes.
Okay, how did or the original Battlestar, the idea of just designing the Galactica or designing that ship or this, or imagining what we need is to bring the dreamers back, the truth seekers. We need to bring that back and find that is, we need to have that. We need to have an illuminated, resurgence of a renaissance, illuminated renaissance of dreamers, thinkers, people.
Be proud to be a dork.
Yes, basically, but what we need that, we need those dreamers that come up with, because come on, flip phones. Remember the flip phones when we first, come on.
I remember
James
those
T.
things.
James T. Kirk flip. We used to, and that's now a reality. Art imitates reality. Reality, it flips back to art. But the thing is, why are we not? We should have these dreamers, and we would love to. For me, at least, I would like to talk to you, dreamers. Those who are seeing, who are been set designers and come up with ideas, who come up with plausible theories on these type of designs and because to build the civilization
Right, exactly.
It's been my inspiration for a long time. Is how did this come up to this? I want to see this. I want to see this in my life. I want to be able to say that my daughter is going to live better than you, and the previous generations, hands down, way a whole lot better and a lot more productive in her life. And Raven and Eric can kind of say the same thing because they're parents too. They want to see their children not, and you yourself, you're a parent, you know what I'm saying, but I'm talking about where we're blown away with, holy crap, we're back, we're now at the Jetson era, or we're now doing like we're having medical instruments that can actually cut and seal without having a scar. There are dreamers who know how to do this. There are theories to do this.
Mhm.
And it's being stifled, and I can't. That's the thing also with me, and honestly with partly with Ellumeniptical, without overstepping, is to have that come in and say, "Come talk to us. Let's hear it. I want to hear it. Talk to me. I want to hear it."
And how can they reach you guys at?
Eric,
They can reach
Raven,
us on Facebook. They can reach us via our website. I'll put
LinkedIn.
more information on the website of how to reach us as well, because that's one of the things I was going to update. But
we
yeah,
got
we do
LinkedIn.
have a Facebook, LinkedIn. Just shoot us a message. I mean, we're open to it.
Okay, we'll certainly do so as well. And guys, a very big thank you for your time as part of Ellumeniptical, a special Mike Wagner Show edition. And keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Live have you back. Wish you all the best. And guys, you definitely have a great future ahead of you.
Thank you, Mike. Seriously,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
It's good
You're
being
gonna
back on. It's good seeing you. You're doing great yourself after a few years.